Yep. Senator Connick, SB 58. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. It's Christine, right? Yes.
While yours is a heavy topic, we get to get away from gaming for a moment and go back into my world.
All right, good. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members.
Good morning, Senator Connick. Mr. Gonzalez, if you'd read SB 58 into the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, this is Senate Bill 58 by Senator Connick, creates the crime of child grooming.
Senator Connick, on your bill.
Thank you. Members, this is a super important bill. It involves, we're trying to prevent the devastation that comes from child sexual abuse from occurring. And this deals with the grooming part. And there's 5 parts of grooming. I won't get into that, but the gist of the bill is to do several things. One, prevent sexual abuse. It's going to address online threats. It's going to be proactive, early intervention before any physical abuse takes place. It's going to be deterrence, 15-year penalty, jail time for someone convicted of this crime. And it's going to support the victims that have been suffering from this for a lifetime of suffering that this caused. The difficulty in this bill in working, how do you make a good bill, an effective bill? Yeah, because how do you prove intent when there's no physical contact? I want to commend, next to me is Zach Daniels and Christine Russell. These are DAs with long-term expertise in this field. They worked around the clock to fine-tune this bill to make it one of the best in the nation, I think. And there's an amendment that I would like to have someone offer
There is.
before we discuss further.
I apologize. There is. Mr. Gonzalez, if you'd read the amendment into the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, this is Amendment Set 3276, and here's what it does. It makes technical changes. It deletes the proposed law crime of child grooming and the designation of this offense as a sexual offense against a victim who is a minor, and it inserts revised statute 14:81 into the bill, which is the crime of indecent behavior with juveniles. And within the elements of this offense, it includes the grooming of a child under the age of 17 as a circumstance for which an individual can be prosecuted pursuant to this crime. And it also defines the term grooming, and that's what this amendment set does.
Thank you,
So
Senator.
it doesn't create a new law, it just puts the definition of grooming inside the statutes that's already there. And I asked Mr. Daniels to explain the work that he has done and why this bill is so important.
If we could go ahead and take the amendment first.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And Mr. Daniels, if you want to talk about the definition of grooming within the amendment for a moment.
Okay, has it been adopted, Madam Chairwoman?
I was going to let you do that before we adopt it.
Zach Daniels, Executive Director, Louisiana District Attorneys Association. What we're trying to do is exactly what I think the original bill's intent was. I think we have preserved that intent. The definition of grooming, as we have tried to categorize it, borrows from a number of other states. I believe I've looked at the law on the books for every other state in the federal government. To capture the behavior that is prior to a sexual assault of a juvenile, to capture what we see routinely as the building of a rapport, the building of a trust, what could be argued as a natural ability or a natural interaction to coach, to mentor, a natural clergy interaction, but that turns insidious when there is a sexual intent. So there would be within that definition some safeguards against it being overbroad. There would be safeguards against it capturing behavior that has no sexual intent, but it would capture the behavior that we often see prior to the victimization of the juveniles. I will return a compliment to Senator Connick in terms of his patience. This is, I would say, a topic that across the country there is a struggle to define. There's a struggle for how to capture this behavior and properly criminalize it. And he has been very patient in terms of the research that we have been able to accomplish this session in getting the bill into a proper posture. So I'm happy to answer any questions with it. The grooming would be that antecedent behavior, the behavior prior to an actual assault, with the specific intent to commit a sex offense against the juvenile. So the safeguard there would be the prosecutor on any grooming charge would need to prove that intent. And I'm happy to answer any questions about how we came to that language or why it is instead of a standalone offense captured within indecent behavior with a juvenile.
And
in the
as I
amendment.
understand, it's a child under 17 by an individual at least 4 years older. Is that correct?
Correct. We've borrowed that language from other statutes, and I hesitate to use the phrase, but it is often used in the industry, Romeo and Juliet type laws, where the only aspect that would make it a crime is the age difference between the participants. These are not consensual acts, so they are different from that type of law, but building in an age difference would allow the same dating behavior for an 18-year-old who is a senior in high school, whether you think it's appropriate or not, a 14-year-old. If there's no age limitation there, we risk capturing and criminalizing behavior for two people that are forced to be under law in the same school with each other. So we try to avoid that type of approach, and that is why the age difference is contained in the amendment.
Thank you. I would move to adopt the amendment. Do we have any objections? Hearing none, let the amendment be adopted. Rep. Knox?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You actually asked a question that I was curious about as it relates to the age. I want to say, Senator Connick, thank you for bringing this bill. And Mr. Daniels, thank you for providing a definition. And I do agree that it is very difficult to define this behavior, but I think most of us who are adults know it and recognize it when we see it. It's the pervert, it's the so-called man who is cruising around these parks and asking these little kids, do you want to come pet my dog? It's the pervert who wants to offer these little kids a lollipop to come to their house. It's the pervert, the so-called man that want to lure these kids into their bedrooms and watch these Disney shows while all along they have these perverted thoughts and intent to do harm to our kids. And I'm so proud of what we're doing this year as a body in providing more teeth to our laws to protect our children. So, Madam Chair, at the appropriate time, I'd like to move favorably.
Thank you, Rep. Knox. Rep. Cox?
I just got one question to clear up confusion. In one part of the bill, the amendment moved it to 13. The 13 and 17 has got me confused.
So the original bill was focused on the under 13. One of the issues we run into in defining that is the definition of a minor and the ability for people that are between that, still within a vulnerable age range, that 14, 15, 16-year-old age range. When it is under 13 in the original bill, that age difference provision was not contained in the bill. So we expanded it to those under 17 who are classified under our criminal law as juveniles or minors, but added the age provision as a safeguard so that we weren't accidentally or incidentally capturing otherwise questionable but not necessarily illegal behavior.
Like a freshman and a senior in high school.
Again, for the record,
You're right,
I would
yeah.
disagree with that dynamic, but again, for two people in the same school, do we criminalize that the same way versus as it was described by Representative Knox, a far more insidious actor?
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Cox. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Rep. Walters?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Zach, for being here. Thank you, Senator Connick, for bringing this bill. Zach, what does someone have to do to be possibly found guilty of child grooming? Can you give some examples?
Yes.
Ms. Russell can answer that.
And
Thank you.
I have
District
an
Attorney.
example as well, if you want to begin.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Good morning, Madam
morning.
Chairwoman, members. Christine Russell, Lafourche Parish District Attorney, President of the LDAA, and I handled sex crimes for about 15 to 18 years. And so there's several things that I'm envisioning that we could potentially use it for, and I'm happy that this is where we have found its place under A3. Oftentimes we'll find those acts, maybe some bribes, maybe some gifts given by someone, and that alone, standing alone, would not be enough. But when we put it together and we look at the ultimate goal of some lewd and lascivious act, then we will be able to get there. So I think it'll be very difficult to prove it standing alone, gift giving, promises, inducements. But I think when you put it under the realm of indecent behavior and you look potentially at a person who maybe has child pornography in their presence, and so there we are, we know what that intent was, and then we have these grooming things that he would have done, the gifts and everything else. Standing alone, we may not have been able to do it, but brought together with those other things, we can have account for child pornography, but we can also have indecent behavior.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Walters. Thank you, D.A. Russell. Rep. Fontenot.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Certainly not always a good time to introduce your district attorney, and I think this is the first time you've come to the table since you've been the president, at least since I've been here, and I wanted to say this. For you, no more fitting time to be here. For my members, she serves as the first female district attorney in Lafourche Parish, but you will never find anyone more passionate about protecting children and serving justice to pedophiles. So I appreciate what you do for us here in Lafourche Parish, and now these people here that I serve with get to see just an honorable lady who stands for justice in every moment for children. So I thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Representative Fontenot.
Thank you, Rep. Fontenot, and thank you, D.A. Russell. And I can attest to what Senator Connick said. D.A. Russell and Mr. Daniels were working very late last night and very early this morning to be able to put this together. I'm well aware of that fact, and I appreciate you. We do have, the board is clear, we have green cards in support. Not wishing to speak, Kevin Hayes on behalf of the Chiefs of Police and Kathleen Benfield with the Louisiana Family Forum. We have a red card in opposition. Wishing to speak, Meg Garvey. While Ms. Garvey approaches the table, I have a card in opposition, not wishing to speak, from Peyton Rose Michelle with the Louisiana Trans Advocates. And I do also have a white card, would like to speak, by Dr. Hall with Louisiana Baptist Office of Public Policy. So if we could go ahead with Ms. Garvey first.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman. Megan Garvey on behalf of the Louisiana Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers in opposition to the bill. First of all, I understand that this is a bill that Senator Connick is bringing from his heart. I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that we all want to be here to protect children. I also appreciate the fact that both Senator Connick and the district attorneys have been trying to continue to work on this, because there is some difficulty with the wording, and I appreciate the fact that people have remained open-minded about keeping the law within the Constitution. I was privy to the amendments just this morning, and I do appreciate that 4-year difference. I think that definitely deals with some of the initial unintended consequences. However, I still have problems with the way that the bill is written with the amendment. I do believe that there are still constitutional issues here. I do believe that there are vagueness issues in violation of the Fifth Amendment, overbreadth issues in violation of the First. The way that I see the law and the case law that I read in preparation for this morning suggests to me that the kind of behavior that we are seeking to prevent is already made illegal by attempt indecent behavior. And I read some case law for that effect. So when I'm looking at the amendment, which I was really excited that there was going to be an amendment, was hoping it was going to fix everything. But just the very definition of inappropriate relationship, what does that mean? I think if it's a sexual relationship, I think that would really go after the kind of behavior that we're talking about, because I think inappropriate can mean different things to different people. I also think that one of the issues that I think the state would have with this bill is that I think not only because of the way that the law is written, I think there's constitutional issues, but I think that the law in and of itself invites an unconstitutional trial. And what I mean by that is I think that there will be a temptation to bring in certain kinds of evidence that may be later found on appeal to really just have had a prejudicial effect. I think that I just think it's going beyond criminalizing the behavior that we actually want to criminalize. I also think that the way this is written is so broad that I think it's going to have a chilling effect on people who genuinely want to volunteer to take care of children, to be teachers, to be coaches, to have anything to do with children, because I think this opens itself up to be possibly a little bit of a witch hunt, because it's just using words like inappropriate, things like that. Now, if somebody were to make a proposition to a child, right, and there were a prosecution for that, I do think that a judge would probably, and I think it would be upheld, would allow the state to bring in what we call prior evidence, or for B evidence to show that these things existed to back up their allegations of intent.
Thank you, Ms. Garvey. And while we typically are not aligned, I do appreciate your efforts as well. I know you were up late
Yes.
and early as well,
Yes.
working on that. So
Yes.
I do want to
Yes,
acknowledge
ma'am.
that.
Thank you.
Rep. Walters.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Meg, for your commentary. Can you explain to me in like simple terms? I'm not an attorney, so like just simple
Yes.
terms.
ma'am.
Some of what you were saying, because I was following you. And so can you kind of just go over, you know how they had a show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Right now, I'm not.
Okay.
So can you go over in regular terms what your opposition is?
Well, very specifically, I think my opposition is to some of the specific words. I think the phrase inappropriate relationship, I don't like, because I think it's broad and I don't think it actually targets what we're seeking to target here. I think that it should be sexual, because that's the law, that's the crime, that's the kind of action that we're seeking to prevent. So I think that could tighten it up. And then as to these other words, emotional manipulation, promises, like I don't know necessarily what that means, right? I think if you're prosecuting somebody for trying to solicit a child to do something sexual or inappropriate, then I think you could use those other facts to maybe flesh out your allegations and to show evidence of motivation. But I think those are big, broad words that have different meaning to different people and different meaning in different contexts. So I still feel like it's a little bit overbroad and could possibly draw in people who have no ill intent. So, I mean, and I understand that the response to that is probably going to be like, well, it says intent to commit a sexual act, but it doesn't even require an attempt. It doesn't even require asking or making those comments to somebody to be convicted of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Walters. Senator Connick, would you have any objection to inserting the word intimate? I understand that the 404 article Ms. Garvey just referenced does use that language, and would there be any objection if we reconsider the amendment and add intimate to that?
Madam Chair, I'm looking at over my DAs or the experts. They have no objections to
Mr.
that.
Daniels?
And last thing we want to do is create a bill that's going to hurt
Absolutely,
innocent
and
people.
that's why I'm
But the last thing the main thing we need to do is go after these people who are really
Absolutely.
preying on our children.
absolutely.
And causing
To the
harm.
extent if we believe it makes it stronger, I would have no problems offering that amendment. If we think it weakens it, that's a different story. Mr. Daniels, can you guide
Zach
me?
Daniels, Executive Director, Louisiana District Attorneys Association again. No, I think intimate relationship is in Code of Evidence Article 404. Therefore, the case law has already interpreted what that means. It is consistently, in my research, referenced the sexual relationship. I think part of hesitance or preference to intimate versus sexual would be the sexual relationship, I think, is more captured in the intent provision, and the intimacy is part of that antecedent behavior. So I think we would balance the concerns here while also utilizing existing language from the statute or Code of Evidence article that was referenced by Ms. Garvey.
Thank you. So, Mr. Gonzalez, if you could help walk me through, what do we have to do? Reconsider the First Amendment set? Okay. So I would offer a motion to reconsider Amendment Set 3276. And Mr. Gonzalez, if you could help me.
Yes. Are there any
Is there any
objections?
objection to reconsideration of the amendment set?
Okay.
No objection. Let that amendment set be withdrawn.
So, yes. So now a motion to withdraw the set.
So I offer a motion to withdraw Amendment Set 3276. Any objection? Hearing none, let Amendment Set 3276 be withdrawn.
And so now this new set that originated in committee, it's my understanding that the contents of this 3276, that is all still there and being offered. The only change is the word inappropriate is being changed to intimate.
Are we changing inappropriate, or are we doing
Or-
inappropriate intimate?
Or
My suggestion would be to replace if the word inappropriate was a part of the objection and based on it not being defined. The intimate relationship, I think, would capture
Okay.
the same theme of the original word.
So Mr. Gonzalez is correct. So on C1,
Point.
okay, well, that's fine. On C1, we would change inappropriate to intimate. So I would go ahead and offer that amendment. Do we have any objections? Hearing none, let that amendment be adopted. Ms. Garvey, did you have something?
I have an intimate relationship with my mother. I mean, it's
That's
just
fine.
like such
I
a-
understand,
a
but
hard
I
word.
think when we look at the Article 404 and the court's interpretation of that, I do think that the bill is stronger by replacing inappropriate with intimate, and for that reason, that amendment that's why I offered the amendment, and it has been
Yes, ma'am,
adopted.
I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you. And it does appear that the board is clear. I understand Dr. Hall is not going. Did you want to testify? You do. Okay. Dr. Hall. And Dr. Hall is with Louisiana Baptist Office of Public Policy.
Thank you very much. Senator, I want to thank you for bringing this important bill forward. I think it's critical for protection of our children. I would urge that the committee consider further strengthening it. With the language that has been accepted through the amendment, anyone under the age of 17 is protected from this power relationship abuse. But I want you to consider this. That means almost all of your seniors in high school are now vulnerable. Typically in a high school senior class in Louisiana, 75% are 18, and roughly 10 to 15% on either end are 17 or 19 and above. So that also means that almost all of your juniors in high school are vulnerable, except for the 16-year-olds that might be a little bit ahead of their cohort. So you got juniors and seniors in our high school now that are going to be vulnerable, exposed to grooming without the protections of this bill. I would further say that you might consider adding some language that would protect young adults in our colleges who are in a power relationship with professors who might groom them sexually as well. And I will tell you, this is personal to me. And I'm going to try and share a personal story with you without giving too many details to embarrass the young person involved. But my wife and I are Christians, and we do a lot of counseling. And there was a young person from a dysfunctional family who we began to build a relationship and helping that person spiritually and financially and emotionally because of dysfunction in that person's family. And we saw a huge turnaround in high school. Went from a C minus student to an A student. Graduated and got full ride scholarship to one of our universities. And we also encouraged this young person, to work, and so we helped this person get a job. And unbeknownst to us, when this young person, the month that this person turned 18, the manager of the business where this person worked moved this person into that manager's household. And then we found out that while this young person was 17, had been being groomed all along by this manager of this business. The young person's left college and is having a huge difficulty right now adjusting to the grooming and now abuse, and we're trying to help that young person to extricate, to leave that situation and to get that person back up onto campus and to get back to pursuing a life-changing. Literally, if this person graduates from college, it will break a generational curse for that family. And
I
so,
understand.
Senator, I would urge the committee to strengthen the protections.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Rep. Knox.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to take this moment and acknowledge what Dr. Hall is saying to be true, and it has merit. I do believe a kid 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and even 21 can be groomed. And I heard the opposition and the concern as it relates to the constitutionality and all of that. And that is a real concern, and I want to acknowledge that as well. But like Dr. Hall, I have witnessed teenagers and college kids be groomed. I see them groomed when they're at some of these churches by people we trust. I see them groomed on these college campuses by people who are in these sororities and fraternities. I see them groomed at the workplace, whether it's McDonald's or Burger King. And it's a subtle thing. And I think that is the problem. It's so subtle that it straddles that line as to whether they're just being these nice, kindly old people, or when they have the opportunity, they're going to do something so harmful to these kids. And that is the issue that I have with this whole notion and concept of grooming. And I'm so thankful that Senator Connick and others recognize it for what it is, and that we're actually doing something about it and addressing it, notwithstanding that it is a very thin line to prove. But I think most people of reasonable intelligence, if you just observe it, it's right in front of you. And so, Madam Chair, I appreciate what you just did to bring some more clarity to it and to strengthen it. I hope that satisfies some of those who are in opposition. But nevertheless, to the point that Dr. Hall is making, we know grooming exists. And to not do something about it, it makes us irresponsible as a body. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Knox. The board is clear. Yeah. Thank you. Senator Connick, if you want to close on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, and thank y'all for the time y'all put into this bill. And I can't thank enough the DAs, Catherine Russ and Zach Daniels, for their work. I also want to thank my brother Paul Connick, who's the DA in Jefferson Parish, his team, who started this. And I want to thank my daughter Sarah, who brought this to my attention and said, other states are doing this, Daddy, what about us? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Connick. We have a motion to report SB 58 as amended by Representative Knox. Do we have any objections? Hearing none, let SB 58 be reported as amended. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.